Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? Thanks. It started with the cold, the kind that doesn't just touch your skin but sinks in deep, burrowing beneath layers like it belongs there. The kind that makes you feel like your bones are made of glass. Even with her coat zipped to her chin and thick gloves on, Mia Harper felt it biting at her neck and stiffening her fingers. It was early December, about 4:15 in the morning. The sky was pitch black, not even a whisper of dawn on the horizon. The roads were dry, but a crust of frost shimmered under the streetlights, giving everything a sharp, unnatural glow. Inside, her aging Honda Civic, the heater wheezed like an asthmatic smoker. Mia twisted the knob higher. Not that it helped. Halfway through her gas station coffee, lukewarm by now, she sighed and tapped the steering wheel. She was on her way to Sugar Birch Bakery, where she worked the morning shift and had picked up an extra couple hours to help prep for the Christmas rush. Mia lived alone, rent was overdue, and tips had been terrible lately. She didn't have the luxury of sleep. Ping, the fuel light blinked on. Of course, she muttered, shooting a glance at the nearly empty gauge. Perfect timing. Her voice was dry with sarcasm, but underneath it a flicker of nerves stirred in her gut. She rubbed her temple, debating. The closest gas station was a little off route, tucked down Highway 14, a quiet strip skirting the edge of Fairview and trailing toward the old Ridgebend factories. She didn't love going that way in the dark, but running out of gas out here would be worse. The place she chose was one she'd been to maybe once before. The sign, barely lit, read, Bennett's, Gas and Food. It sat alone on a wide bend in the road, isolated and humming with fluorescent light. A battered Coca-Cola banner slapped against the side of the building like it was trying to escape. A few older cars dotted the lot, scattered still, a little too spread out. The kind of station that ran all night on one bored employee half asleep, behind bulletproof glass. Mia eased up to pump 3 and slipped the car into park. Reflexively, she checked her mirrors, an old habit from living alone for too long in a world that didn't forgive carelessness. That's when she saw it, a tan van, paint flaking parked crooked across from her. Faded logo of a lawn care service ghosted along its side. A man stood next to it, hood popped open, cigarette glowing between his fingers. He wasn't moving, not pacing, not shivering. Just still, watching the road. Or maybe watching her. Mia hesitated, her hand frozen on the door handle. Then she drew, in a breath. "Don't be paranoid," she whispered, and stepped out. The cold hit harder outside the car. Hip-hop blared overhead from cheap speakers beneath the station awning. Loud, too loud for this hour. Like the cashier inside didn't care, or maybe wasn't really alone. Mia jammed her card into the pump and punched in regular. As she unscrewed the cap, she heard it, clear and close. A voice. Hey, got a sec?" She turned fast, instincts flaring. The man from the van had crossed about 20 feet, now standing just outside the yellow safety lines painted on the pavement. He looked mid-30s, pale face half hidden beneath a beanie, scruffy beard, canvas jacket too thin for the weather and stained near the hem with something dark and dried. His voice wasn't threatening. If anything, it was casual. Almost friendly. Mia kept one hand on the pump handle, firm. "Yeah? You got jumper cables?" he asked, rubbing his hands together and nodding toward the van. "Thing's dead. Battery's probably toast. Been out here since 3. No luck." Mia shook her head. "Sorry. Just switched cars a few weeks ago. Haven't stocked the trunk yet." He made a disappointed click with his tongue, glanced back at the van. "Damn. Yeah, no worries. Worth a shot. Sucks being stuck in this cold, you know?" She nodded slightly, eyes flicking to the building, noting the front windows. No movement inside. The man didn't move, didn't leave, just stood there. Behind her, the gas clicked off. Mia flinched at the sound. "Think you could call my girlfriend for me?" he asked, hands shoved in his jacket pockets, shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a no. Phone ran out of minutes last night, just need her to swing by and give me a jump. Shouldn't take more than a sec, Mia blinked, thrown by the ask. She glanced at the station's glass doors. Still no sign of a clerk. No movement, no silhouette. Just the faint reflection of the two of them under the buzzing lights. Yeah, okay. What's the number? He rattled it off quickly. Mia typed it in, with her thumb, and pressed call. It rang 4 or 5 times. Then a beep. The mailbox is full and cannot accept new messages at this time. No name, no greeting. Try this one, he said, already offering a second number, tone a little too rehearsed. Same result. Voicemail full. No identification. He laughed. But it was brittle. Guess she still hasn't fixed that damn voicemail, he said with a short shrug. Mia gave a polite smile, thin and uneasy, eyes dropping to the screen of her phone. Her gut stirred. That low warning hum again, louder now. Her breath clouded in the cold as she slipped the phone back into her coat pocket. Then came the pivot. You think you could give me a quick ride? Just up the road. Her eyes snapped up. Where? He pointed lazily past her car down the bend. Old station like a mile from here. Shut down place. That's where my car really is. I just biked down here hoping someone be around. Mia didn't move. I thought. You said the van was yours. He hesitated. Just a blink too long. Nah. Just resting here. Bike chain snapped. Van belongs to a buddy. He lets me crash sometimes. The air seemed to tighten. His story was starting to slip. Little cracks forming. You borrowed a bike at 4 a.m, she said slowly, in freezing weather? Yeah, he said too fast. Guy owed me a favor. Just trying to get to work, you know? She didn't answer. Her pulse was up now. Her hand hovered near the pump like it might shield her somehow. He took a small step forward. Look, I know it sounds sketchy, but I'm not trying to scare you or anything. Just a ride. 1 mile. You drop me, that's it. Mia's thoughts ran wild. Every crime documentary, every Reddit thread, every old headline screaming woman found dead after helping stranger. She tried to read his face. He looked tired, cold, not angry, not aggressive, but those weren't the same as safe. She made a decision. Wait, she said suddenly. I might have jumper cables after all. Let me check the trunk. His face lit up, relief plain as day. Really? Man, that's awesome. You're a lifesaver. She nodded and turned, walking briskly toward the car, pulse pounding in her throat. But she didn't open the trunk. She climbed into the driver's seat, slammed the door, hit the lock button, and jammed the key into the ignition. The engine turned, caught. She threw it into gear and pulled away. She didn't check the mirrors, didn't look back, not once. Her chest was tight, breath shallow as the station receded into darkness behind her. The frost on the road sparkled like glass, shards and her tires hummed over the asphalt. There was no second gas station, not down that road. That place had been boarded up since summer, the windows papered, the sign cracked in half, and no one rides a goddamn bike down a frozen highway at 4 a.m. for jumper cables. Her hands trembled on the wheel as Fairview came, back into view. By the time she pulled into the bakery lot, her fingers had gone numb again, but she wasn't cold. She was wired, burning from the inside. Under the parking lot lights, she locked her doors and sat there, engine idling, phone clutched in her lap. She pictured him standing alone in the glow of those buzzing overheads, staring after her. Maybe surprised, maybe just watching. A thin thread of guilt wormed its way in. Maybe he had just needed help. Maybe he was harmless. But deep down, she knew better. Not because he looked evil or said the wrong thing, but because something hadn't fit. His story frayed and her instincts had screamed. Sometimes the monsters don't growl, sometimes they smile, and sometimes survival is just about listening to the voice inside that says, go. Mia shut off the engine, exhaled slowly, and stepped out into the light. Shift started in 10 minutes. She didn't feel safe, but she was alive. I never minded working late. At 18, fresh out of high school and riding the high of my first real job, I actually liked the night shifts. There was something calming about finishing up when the world had gone quiet. No traffic, no customers, just me, the moonlit roads, and my music low in the background. I worked the closing shift at Hearth and Home, a small home goods store tucked just outside Lexington, Kentucky. Not glamorous by any means, dusty shelves, awkward customers, and the smell of cinnamon potpourri constantly in the air. But it paid, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a bit of freedom. The only catch was the commute. 30 minutes of dark back roads and silent stretches of highway, where your headlights felt like the only thing keeping the void at bay. No streetlights, no houses, just blacktop and trees. Mom wasn't thrilled. She knew the roads, and more than that, she knew people. She gave me one rule before my first shift, the kind of rule that sticks in your head because of the way it's said, not just what's being said. Don't let your tank get low, you hear me? If you need gas, fill up before work, never after, and never at night. I could still hear her voice every time I turned the key in the ignition, soft but sharp like a warning wrapped in concern. She had reason too. I was barely 5'2", baby-faced and polite to a fault. If someone were watching, I'd make an easy target. But back then I rolled my eyes. This was Kentucky, not some horror movie. The first couple of weeks I followed her advice, kept the tank full, made my stops in daylight. But routines blur, and when life gets busy, caution slips. That's how I ended up at a place called Scott's Fuel Depot, just after midnight on a Thursday. That shift had been brutal. One of the regular closers had called in sick, so I'd stayed late to help sort inventory. My feet were killing me. My stomach growled, and I just wanted to get home and collapse. I didn't even see the fuel light until I was halfway down Route 60. Shit, I muttered, knuckles tightening on the wheel. I took the next exit and coasted into the first station I could find, Scott's. It wasn't a chain I recognized, but it was open. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like a bug zapper, and the lot was nearly empty, save for one sedan parked over by the air pump. Engine off. No one inside. I pulled up to pump 2, swiped my card, and selected the cheapest grade. Just $10, enough to get home. The air was sharp and cold. I folded my arms and leaned against the car, listening to the low hum of the pump. That's when I felt it. It wasn't anything obvious, just a twinge in my gut, a static itch along the back of my neck. I glanced around. Nothing. No movement. The guy behind the counter, tall, scruffy flannel shirt, was watching something on a tiny TV, eyes glazed, uninterested. Still, I couldn't shake it. The pump clicked. I capped the tank, grabbed the receipt, and started for the door. Then the speaker above the pump buzzed to life. "Ma'am, there was an issue with your payment. Can you come inside?" The voice was warped, tinny, almost robotic. I froze, the receipt fluttering slightly in my fingers. I looked up at the speaker, then at the store. The clerk was suddenly looking right at me, hand lifted slightly in a stiff, unnatural gesture, beckoning. My stomach dropped. I held the receipt up, frowning. "It went through," I said, loud enough to carry. There was a pause. Then the speaker crackled again. "It printed wrong. I need to run it again. Inside." The tone was wrong. Too fast. No apology, just flat. Mechanical. I looked at him, through the glass. His eyes were wide. Too wide. Not annoyed, not irritated, but alert. Focused. Like he wasn't watching me, but something behind me. That's when I noticed his hand. It wasn't beckoning anymore. It was shaking, slightly, and he mouthed a word. "Don't." My blood turned to ice. I didn't move, didn't blink. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing but the dark lot and the empty car. But the silence was too heavy, too still, like the air itself was waiting. Tension. Not the kind you get when a customer's card declines or someone argues over a coupon. This was thicker, heavier, like the air had turned to molasses. I stepped back from the car, heart starting to thump faster than I liked, and pulled out my phone. Opened my banking app. The charge was there. $10, clear as day. I'm good, I called out, holding the phone up toward the window. Payment went through, not coming in. His mouth moved behind the glass, but the intercom stayed dead. No sound. I squinted, trying to lip read, but nothing made sense. Frustrated now, I raised my voice. If this is some scam, forget it. I'm not coming inside over $10. I turned toward the driver's side door, muttering under my breath. That's when everything changed. His expression snapped from blank to something else. Panic. He started pounding his palm against the glass, fast and hard, mouthing something again and again. I stopped, my hand just inches from the door handle. He grabbed a scrap of paper and a thick Sharpie from the counter, scrawling something in big, slanted letters. Back seat. Don't open door. I didn't move. My brain just paused, like the message couldn't process. Then, slowly, I turned my head. The back passenger door, not wide open, just barely ajar. I hadn't left it like that. I ran, full sprint across the lot, shoes slapping the concrete. I shoved the gas station door open and stumbled inside. The clerk hit the lock button without hesitation, then pulled me behind the counter. In his other hand, he held a small black handgun. Not pointed at me, pointed low, steady, ready. Down, he whispered, crouching. Stay down. The monitors above the register showed grainy security cam footage. My car, the pump, the lot bathed in dim yellow light. For a long second, nothing moved. Then, from the shadows in the back seat, a figure unfolded, not fast. Not clumsy, controlled, calculated. A man, tall, hooded. He wore a gray windbreaker and baggy sweats like someone heading to the gym, if that someone moved like a predator. Low to the ground, quick, familiar with the dark. He didn't even glance toward the building. No panic, just slipped into the shadows and disappeared around the side of the station. Marcus, that was the clerk's name, was already on the phone, whispering into it with sharp precision. White male, late 20s maybe. Windbreaker, gray. He's gone around the side. Don't know if he's armed. Hurry. I sat on the floor behind the counter, hands shaking, teeth clamped tight. I could barely breathe. The realization hit me in sickening, crashing waves that I was seconds away from driving off, from locking myself in with him, from never knowing he was there. He hadn't made a sound. I hadn't seen a shadow, not a whisper. Just silence. Marcus handed me a water bottle from under the counter, his hands still steady, calm in the way someone gets after too many long nights. He was 24, had worked nights for 2 years, said he'd noticed the guy on the security feed earlier, lurking by the dumpsters, not moving, not smoking, just waiting. As soon as I pulled in, Marcus saw him make a beeline for my car. No hesitation. He ducked low, opened the back passenger door and slid inside. Left it cracked. Just enough so it wouldn't click shut, didn't touch the front doors, didn't approach the pump. He was never after my purse. He was waiting. Marcus said he'd seen people hide in cars before. Usually junkies looking for a nap or desperate enough to dig for spare change. But this guy had eyes like glass, cold, intent. Police showed up 10 minutes later. They searched everything, lot, woods, even brought out dogs, but nothing. The man had vanished. No prints, no DNA, no damage. Just a sliver of cold air and a door left slightly ajar. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. For weeks I jumped, at every sound. I checked the back seat twice before unlocking the car, even in daylight, and I never let my tank dip below half. People asked me later what he wanted, why he didn't grab me, but that's the part that still haunts me. He didn't want my wallet, he didn't want the car, he didn't want to rob me, he wanted me to trap myself, and I almost did. So yeah, laugh if you want. Roll your eyes when someone tells you to fill up during the day or check your back seat. But listen, really listen, because some nights you don't get a second chance. I've never been the type to scare easy, not after 3 years in the Marines where fear was just another part of the daily routine. You don't get to flinch when things go sideways. You adapt, push through. You either master fear or it masters you. My name's Jason Miller. When this happened, I was back home in Tucson, Arizona. Spring was easing in, though the night still carried that dry, biting chill that made you tug your jacket tighter and glance over your shoulder just a little more often. I was juggling 2 jobs, one as a graveyard shift security guard at a warehouse on the edge of town, the other slinging coffee and burgers at a 24-hour diner downtown. Both gigs were draining, but they kept the lights on. That night started like any other. I clocked out of the diner around 1:30 a.m., rubbing the ache out of my knees and stretching my back. Lisa, one of the waitresses, needed a ride home. Her car had been in the shop for weeks and her ex wasn't picking up her calls anymore. We didn't talk much on the drive, just the usual. Crappy tips, weird customers, weekend plans that never really happen. We stopped at this beat-up taco stand by the freeway, got 2 burritos wrapped in foil that was probably older than the guy who handed them over. We ate in silence, neon flickering above us. When I dropped Lisa off at her rundown apartment complex around 1:50, she muttered a tired, "Thanks, Jay," and disappeared inside before I even put the car in park. I turned toward home, fingers drumming the steering wheel, eyelids heavy. Just as I was about to pull into my driveway, that low fuel light blinked on, bright and accusing. I cursed under my breath and steered a block over to the closest gas station. It was a grim little place, half the lights out, old signage buzzing, like a dying hornet. No other cars. No people. Just the high whine of a faulty overhead light and the hollow stillness of 2 a.m. desert air. The kind of silence that hums in your ears and makes your skin itch. I pulled up to the pump, killed the engine. Even with the heater off, a chill crept into the car. I grabbed my wallet and stepped out. The crunch of gravel under my boots sounded unnaturally loud. As I walked toward the store, something shifted in the edge of my vision. A figure, tall, thin, moved like smoke along the far wall of the building, slipping between shadows like he belonged there. I stopped, 1 foot on the curb, eyes narrowing. Probably just some homeless guy, I told myself. They cut through here all the time, or maybe a tweaker looking for a scrap to pawn. Still, there was something off. He moved with intent, not desperation. Like he didn't want to be seen, but also didn't care if he was. Inside, the air was too cold, too bright. The cashier, a skinny teenager with headphones half hidden under his hoodie, barely glanced at me. I grabbed a Monster from the fridge. $3.50, he muttered without looking up. I dropped exact change into his open palm and pushed back out into the night. The door's bell gave 1 shrill ding behind me. I looked around. The figure was gone. I told myself again it was nothing. My brain playing tricks on me. I was tired, hungry, and half running on caffeine and muscle memory. But when I walked back to my car, I felt it. That pull between my shoulder blades. That hair-raising tension. The gravel beneath my boots crunched, like thunder. Then I saw him again. He was standing near my rear bumper, still in shadow, but just enough light to catch the glint in his eyes. Watching me, cold, flat, unblinking. My pulse kicked up. Adrenaline surged like an old friend. I stopped, planted my feet, kept my hands loose and ready. Not a junkie, not a drifter. He didn't have the twitchy look. He stood still, like he had, all the time in the world. I took 1 slow breath, then footsteps behind me. Fast, light, precise. I spun, heart pounding. Another figure, close, too close. A man, eyes sunken, face pale and wrong somehow. He reeked of stale cigarettes and rust. His breath hit my face and made my stomach twist. He didn't speak, didn't blink, just stared. 100 thoughts screamed through my mind. Yell, punch, run. But all I heard were the words drilled into me years ago on a cold, wet tarmac in Paris. Island. Don't flinch, stay grounded, assess, survive. Don't let fear run the show. Breathe. Think. Hey, I said, my voice even, though my shirt clung with sweat. You lost or something? His mouth twisted into a crooked grin. Got some change? He rasped, voice like sandpaper dragged over steel. For a flicker of a second, relief. Just some sketchy guy hustling for cash. I reached slowly for my wallet. Then everything snapped sideways. A violent jerk yanked my head back by the hair. Pain lit up my scalp, and before I could react, cold metal kissed my throat. A knife. Thin. Clean. It caught the streetlight and winked at me like it knew something I didn't. Don't scream. Don't move. Or I'll open your throat. He breathed. Against my ear. The stink of nicotine and rust curling in my nose. Panic clawed its way up my throat, but I shoved it down, nodded carefully. Marine training or not, fear has a way of slipping past your defenses when death presses a blade to your jugular. Good, he said, as calm as ordering coffee. Now we're going to New Mexico. You make one wrong move, I repaint your car from the inside out. I kept my hands where he could see them, slow and careful, my mind scrambling. New Mexico? Why the hell? New Mexico? How you want to do this? I asked, keeping my voice low, steady. You give me directions, or... He eased his grip a little, letting me breathe. The knife didn't budge from my skin. Use your GPS and shut the hell up. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, fingers slick with sweat. I opened maps. We're in New Mexico. He laughed. No humor in it, just something bitter and cracked. You just drive. I swallowed hard, started the engine, and pulled away from the pumps. Every stoplight felt like a countdown. Every passing mile coiled tighter around my nerves. I was wide, awake now, hyper-aware. My eyes flicked constantly between the road, my mirrors, and the cold gleam just beside my neck. Near the edge of town, I hit a red light. Empty crossroads, ghost quiet. Then, a truck. Ford Ranger, barreling down a side street. Big, loud, fast. My gut screamed, now. I slammed the gas. The tires shrieked, the car jolted forward, and his grip slipped. Startled, his hand tangled in my jacket as he lost balance. I twisted hard, grabbing his wrist, yanking down. The knife tumbled from his hand, bounced against the steering wheel with a metallic clatter. He snarled, tried to recover, but I threw my shoulder into him, shoving him backward. He spilled out into the dark, disappearing into the shadows. I slammed the door, locked it, hit the horn, 3 short, panicked blasts. The Ford Ranger screeched to a halt beside me. The driver, a middle-aged guy, flannel shirt, a face rough from life, rolled down his window, eyes sharp. You all right? He barked. I pointed frantically. Don't let him get away. He threw a glance toward the darkness, then threw his truck into gear. But it was too late. The man was gone. I locked everything, shaking, and grabbed my phone again. 11. I could barely keep my voice steady. The dispatcher was calm, efficient. Promised units were en route. When the cops arrived, I told them everything. The blade, the voice, the smell. Every twitch and word I could remember. They took notes. Searched the area. Nothing. He'd vanished like smoke. They said they'd patrol near my place for a while. Told me to stay aware. I nodded, numb. Once the adrenaline faded, it hit me all at once, like being hollowed out and dropped into ice water. My body wouldn't stop shaking. Sleep didn't come. Every creak in the apartment made my hand inch. Toward the baseball bat, I'd leaned by the bed. I checked every lock, even the window latches. Twice. Then again. Next day, I applied for a gun permit, signed up for private self-defense classes. Not because I thought I was invincible, but because I knew now. Monsters don't just live overseas. I didn't just carry a weapon now. I carried a constant knot in my chest. That gas station that night, it etched itself into me. The next weeks blurred. Work was harder. I spaced out behind the counter. lost in thoughts. Lisa caught me trembling once in the stockroom, didn't ask, just hugged me, said nothing. The warehouse, once boring, now felt like a cage. I flinched at every echo, every shadow. I quit 2 months later. People love to say, just move on. But that's a lie. You don't move on from fear like that. You carry it, you shape it, or it shapes you. I found a therapist, ex-military. He got it, helped me name what I was feeling, helped me not hate myself for surviving. The man was never found. No prints, no ID, just a nightmare stitched into an ordinary night. But I'm still here. I still carry a knife. Still drive past that gas station sometimes. Still look toward those shadows. And I still breathe, still think, still move. I never thought a simple road trip would twist into the worst nightmare of my life, but that's exactly how it went down. Name's Samuel Harvey, 24 years old, born and raised in Dammam. Ever since I was a kid, I've had this itch to explore. Saudi's deserts, the cities, the forgotten roads. It's like being alive only when you're out there, away from the city's constant hum. That winter day, I was stuck in a rut. Work, sleep, repeat. Needed a break, something raw, something real. So I decided to drive north, about 650 kilometers, to this tiny town called Al Juf. Left Dammam at 2:45 p.m. The winter sun was still hanging up high, but I knew it'd drop quick. Winter here doesn't mess around. The road was quiet at first, endless stretches of sand slowly giving way to jagged rocks and scraggly bushes. I was solo, radio playing some soft Arabic tunes, something mellow just to keep me company. By 6:45 p.m., the sky was bruising purple, and cold air sneaked through the cracked window. Hunger hit me hard. Hadn't eaten since morning. I flicked. My GPS found a gas station about 50 kilometers outside Al Juf. No name, no reviews. Should have been a red flag. Rolled in around 7:05 p.m. The place was dead. Flickering yellow sign barely hanging on, looking like it was stuck in the 90s. Paint peeling off the walls, cracked pavement stained with old oil. Smelled like forgotten, memories mixed with gasoline and something metallic, almost like rusted blood. Parked, took a breath and stepped inside the store. Fluorescent lights hummed and flickered, throwing jagged shadows over dusty shelves lined with stale snacks and faded cans. The air was thick, old cigarette smoke, gas fumes, and that weird, metallic scent that stuck in your throat. I noticed a faint scuff on the floor, like someone had dragged something heavy, but the place was silent, except for the buzzing light. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle from the back. My heart skipped. I wasn't alone. Behind the counter stood a man who looked like he'd been beaten down by life itself. Late 40s, scruffy gray beard patchy like a bad paint job, eyes tired, but sharp, like he'd seen things no one should. His name tag read Hassan. When I asked about the restroom, he pointed down a dim hallway. Just down there. Clean enough, I guess, he muttered, voice rough but polite, like he wasn't used to talking much. I nodded, stomach rumbling like a storm, and made my way down the hallway. The flickering lights barely lit the cracked floor tiles. Then, out of nowhere, a scream shattered the stale silence. Sharp, desperate, like someone's soul was ripping in two. My blood ran cold. I froze, heart thudding so loud I thought Hassan might hear it behind the counter. For a second, I told myself it was my mind playing tricks. Then it came again. Louder this time. A heavy, wet thud followed by an eerie silence. Curiosity mixed with fear made me inch forward, peeking cautiously around the corner. What I saw is burned into my brain. A body dumped out of a bathroom stall, twisted and soaked in blood. Before I could even blink, a man stepped out. Rough-looking, mid-30s, face carved with deep scars, dark bruises bruising his skin like old wounds. His clothes were filthy, torn, stained with dirt and dried blood. A rusty knife peeked from his coat pocket, catching the faint light. Our eyes locked for a terrifying moment. I ducked behind a pillar, breath shallow, heart pounding like a drum. He grabbed the body and started dragging it toward a rickety old shed behind the station. It was clear. He was hiding something awful. The night air was cold, biting at my skin, but I was frozen. Every muscle screamed to run, but my legs refused to obey. Suddenly, he glanced toward the parking lot. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't spot my car. He paced slowly, eyes scanning shadows as if hunting. Time stretched out. Finally, he turned away and disappeared behind the shed. I didn't waste a second. I bolted to my car, fumbling with the keys, hands shaking. The engine roared alive. Tires screamed against the cracked pavement as I sped away into the night. Only when miles had stretched behind me did I let out the breath I'd been holding. I spotted a mosque glowing softly in the distance and pulled over, running inside like a man running from death itself. The imam, a gentle-faced man named Sheikh Abdullah, didn't ask questions. He listened as I spilled the story, eyes wide but calm. He handed me water, urged me to call the police. Within minutes, sirens cut through the night. Officers arrived, took my statement seriously, and rushed to the gas station. Sitting there in the mosque's quiet, surrounded by prayers, I realized just how close I had come to being lost forever. An hour later, the police came back. The man I saw, arrested, a criminal hiding in plain sight for years. Turns out the gas station was his lair, the place tied to dozens of disappearances no one dared talk about. The worst? His own family, wife and parents, were found murdered in that very bathroom years ago. He'd been living in the shadows, using that decrepit bathroom as his hunting ground, dragging victims to the shed behind to bury their secrets. I got lucky. If I'd ignored the scream, if I'd walked in like any other traveler, I'd be another ghost no one found. So, trust your gut. Stay sharp. Because sometimes the scariest monsters don't lurk in dark forests or abandoned houses. They hide where you least expect them. I never liked night drives. Not because of the dark or the quiet or even the loneliness, though those things crept in, sure. But because of the way the world shifted after sundown. Like the rules softened. Like whatever watched over you during the day clocked out with the sunset. Once Ryan joked that if I ever vanished during one of those drives, they'd find my car before they found me. I laughed at the time. Now I wish I hadn't. It was 3 years ago. I was 18, stuck in that hazy space between high school and real life, trying to tell the difference between regular fear, like public speaking, and the kind that keeps you alive. Ryan, my boyfriend back then, was 21. He worked nights at this rundown Quick Mart at the edge of a crumbling industrial town in South Dakota. The kind of town where ambition dried up faster than the factories did. People either worked overnight shifts or gave up entirely. We lived in this small, musty apartment above a pawn shop that had been boarded up since 2009. 2 blocks off Main, next to an empty strip mall with faded signage and grass pushing through the cracks in the concrete. The Quick Mart sat across from a U-Haul yard and some cement plant that always smelled like wet ash. At night, the whole area looked like something peeled out of a forgotten part of the world. Streetlights hummed like dying insects. Neon buzzed overhead like it was struggling to stay relevant. No real downtown, just rusted edges. A place where people double-locked their doors in the afternoon and cops didn't show unless someone was bleeding. Ryan didn't have a car then, so I'd drive him to work, mostly to keep him from walking past the freight yard alone. I told myself I was being smart, responsible even. But the truth was, I didn't like the thought of him out there where the dark felt thick. Sometimes I'd swing by early if his shift was slow. We'd sit in the back room sipping off-brand sodas, laughing over dumb stories. He once showed me a receipt for 6 bags of Funyuns and a tube of superglue. Said the guy muttered science project and walked out. That October night, I remember it being cold in a way that bit under your skin. The kind of cold that felt older than the air. I'd forgotten my hoodie, so I grabbed one of Ryan's from the back seat. Some oversized crew neck that still smelled like motor oil, and that cinnamon gum he chewed constantly. I parked like I always did around the side lot, hidden from the 3 front-facing cameras. The side was technically for deliveries, but no one cared. That night there was another car, a white Chevy pickup parked a few spots down. Clean. New. Not jacked up like the usual locals rides. No engine running. No lights. Just sitting there. I didn't think much of it until I got out. He was leaning against the truck, like he'd been waiting. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. White guy. Tall, but not cartoonishly so. Clean face, neat clothes. Too neat, like he was cut out of a catalog. Wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, no jacket in the cold. That's what stuck with me. The way he wasn't shivering. I had to walk past him to get to the front. I figured he'd look away or pretend not to see me. Instead, he stepped into my path just enough to slow me down. "Hey," he said, voice dipped in fake casual. I didn't stop, just eased my pace. "Yeah?" "My truck won't start," he said, nodding toward the hood. "You know anything about engines?" I gave a quick smile, not too friendly. "Not really, sorry." "You sure?" he asked again, inching closer. "Battery might be dead. Could really use a hand." I motioned toward the glass doors. "My boyfriend's inside. He might be able to help." Something flickered in his eyes then. Barely a second, but it was like watching a glitch on an old screen. "Boyfriend, huh?" he said. "Yeah." I tried to step past him. He shifted again. Not fully blocking me, but close. Close enough I'd have to brush his sleeve. "It'll just take a second," he said, quieter now. "Just need someone to hold the hood while I try the key." "I really can't," I said, voice tightening. "I'm cold and I'm not good with cars." He chuckled, but it wasn't the kind people make when they hear a joke. It sounded hollow. "Didn't think it took much to stand still," he said. Something clamped in my chest then. Not fear exactly. More like my body remembering what fear is. It wasn't just his words. It was the way he said them, like he wasn't looking for help at all. Like he was testing something. I didn't answer. I just walked fast, straight toward the entrance. Didn't look back. Inside, the store was mostly empty. Ryan was behind the counter, counting the till. He smiled, but it vanished when he saw my face. "You good?" he asked, stepping around the register. "There's a guy out back," I whispered. "White truck, said his engine wouldn't start. He was weird." Ryan didn't waste a second. He grabbed his jacket and followed me out. But when we stepped outside, the pickup was gone. No headlights, no engine noise. Just the sound of tires screeching in the distance, already fading. We stood there, cold and silent, watching the red glow disappear around a bend. "You didn't go near him, right?" Ryan asked finally. "No, just kept walking." "Good." That was all he said. Not smart move or thanks, just good. Like he knew something I didn't, like he'd seen it before. We told his manager the next day. She laughed and said, "Probably just some drunk. Town's full of weirdos," with a shrug like it didn't matter. But I know what I felt. That truck wasn't broken. That man wasn't stuck. He was waiting. Waiting in the one place the cameras didn't reach, for someone tired, alone, and polite enough to stop. And the worst part? A week later, I started noticing things. It began small. A white pickup, same model, parked across from our apartment. Never stayed long. Maybe an hour, then gone. Different plates every time or none I could see from our window. Then came the hang-up calls, always after midnight, always silent. One night, I went to the grocery store alone and saw that same truck idling near the exit of the lot. I froze, gripping my keys like a weapon. The second I ducked back into the store, it peeled away. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, locations. I didn't want to be paranoid. I wanted to be prepared. Ryan was skeptical at first. Thought maybe I was just shaken from the gas station incident. But after he saw the truck again parked a block from his work, he changed his tune. "Maybe we should call someone," he said. "Who?" I snapped. "The cops, they'll say he's just running errands." But we called anyway, and they said exactly that. No laws being broken. the officer told us. If you see him trespassing or threatening you directly, let us know. Until then, not much we can do. So we got cameras. Tiny ones. Hidden behind the windows, one facing the street, another by the stairs. The first week, nothing. The second week, 2:13 a.m., motion detected. A tall figure walking past the building, paused, looked up at our window, then gone. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did Ryan. We sat up with the lights off, watching shadows shift across the walls. Waiting. The night it came to a head, Ryan was off visiting his sister 2 hours away. I stayed behind, early shift in the morning, locked everything, triple-checked the windows, left the hallway light on. At 3:07 a.m., the motion sensor chimed. I crept to the window, pulled the curtain back just an inch. There he was, the white truck parked across the street, lights off. The driver's side door opened slowly. He didn't walk toward the building. He just stood there, looking up at me. Just stood there, looking up. I stepped back like the window had burned me. My chest tightened. My hand shook. I didn't know what to do. Call the police again? Turn off the lights? Run? He hadn't done anything. Not technically. But he was escalating. That much I knew. I crawled to the side table and grabbed my phone, heart hammering, fingers slippery with sweat. 1-1. I whispered, "There's a man outside my apartment. He's been following me for weeks." The dispatcher's voice was calm. Too calm. Is he armed? I don't know. He's just standing there, but he's been here before. Has he made any threats? No, I snapped. But he's watching me. Same truck, same man. This isn't the first time. Okay, officers are en route. Stay on the line. I didn't hear the rest. I was too focused on the window. I crawled back just enough to peek. He was gone. The truck was still there. Door open, engine off. But he wasn't in it. And that was worse. I ducked. Moved away from the window completely. The apartment felt smaller by the second. Every wall too thin, every lock too breakable. I grabbed the baseball bat from under the couch, the one Ryan insisted we keep, just in case. I didn't hear footsteps, but I heard the back staircase creak. Slow, deliberate. Then silence. And then a knock, not on the door, on the window. My stomach dropped. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The curtain shifted slightly. A shadow passed behind it. Too close. He was trying to see in, and I'd been standing right in the glow of the hallway light. I backed into the kitchen, turned off every light I could, tried to stay hidden while keeping eyes on every angle. The knocking stopped. Then, the jiggle of the front door knob. I whispered to the dispatcher, "He's at the door. He's trying to get in." "Stay calm," she said. "Officers are close. 2 minutes out." I didn't know if I had 2 minutes. The knob jiggled again, not hurried. A low, almost thoughtful rattling, like he was measuring it. Testing, like he had time, like he knew no one else was coming. Then, a voice. "I know you're in there." I froze. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said. "Just want to talk. You're making this into something it doesn't have to be." His voice wasn't angry or desperate. It was calm, controlled, casual, and that terrified me most. The next 30 seconds stretched like forever. I crouched behind the fridge, bat in both hands, waiting to hear glass shatter, but it never did. Instead, sirens. Not distant. Right outside. Blue lights lit up the living room like lightning. Boots on the stairs, shouts. My name. Only then did I move. They didn't catch him. By the time they arrived, he was gone, slipped into the alleys behind the pawn shop, left the truck, driver's side door still open. Like bait, the truck was stolen. Plates from a different county, no prints, no ID, nothing. I gave my full report, showed them the footage, the logs, my notes. They nodded. promised to keep an eye on the area. Then they left, and I was alone again. Ryan came home the next morning and never left again. For 3 weeks he slept by the front door with that same baseball bat, but the man never came back. A month later, we moved, left the apartment, the town, everything. I still don't know who he was, what he wanted, why he chose me. All I know is, he wasn't drunk, he wasn't confused, he was looking for someone. And for a while he thought that someone was me. Now sometimes when I'm driving late at night, roads empty, sky pitch black, I still think about that pickup, about those eyes looking up at my window. Not angry, not curious, just calculating, like he was already building the next plan for the next girl and the next town, and I wonder if she'll realize how close the danger is before it's too late, because I almost didn't. I used to work the graveyard shift at a rundown gas station just off Route 19, a forgotten stretch of blacktop that winds past Hollow Creek, Tennessee. If your eyes wandered for a second, you'd miss it completely. One lonely building half-eaten, by kudzu, busted pumps that coughed more than they poured, and a crooked neon sign that blinked Gusty Tayan in tired pink letters, hadn't worked right since maybe 2003. At the time, it felt like the kind of job folks take when they're out of me. Options, a stopgap, a way to vanish. For me, it was both. I'd moved out here after flunking out of Roan State, dragging a duffel full of regrets and a whole lot of silence. My cousin Daryl managed the station and didn't ask questions, just handed me the keys on my first night, and said, "Keep the register straight, don't pass out, and if some asshole pulls a knife, let him. The chips ain't worth your spleen." Welcome to Tennessee. The station's layout was weird. Main floor had all the basics, cigarettes, stale donuts, knockoff colas, and a couple humming fridge units by the back wall. There were only 2 cameras, one above the counter, one aimed at the basement stairs. That's where we kept the overstock. No break room, no employee bathroom, just a spider-infested outhouse that smelled like burnt rubber and old piss. And the basement? Christ, I hated that place. Unfinished concrete, no insulation, low-hanging pipes that sweated year-round. The air down there always smelled like mildew and rusted tools. The shelves were rusted metal things that rattled just from breathing near them. Cold draft constantly kissed the back of your neck, even in summer. At night, that chill felt sharper. But that night, February 3rd, if memory serves, I didn't have a choice. Temperature had dropped hard, probably low 20s, and even the rats seemed to keep their distance. Business was slow, like usual, like just 2 regulars. Old man Vernon came in for his scratch-offs and mumbled about how they're tracking us through pigeon beaks, and some kid in a beat-up Silverado topped off on unleaded and left a trail of Leonard Skynerd blasting behind him. I'd clocked in at 8 p.m. By 11:17, I was just counting the seconds, leaning behind the counter scrolling aimlessly through my phone. That's when I noticed the Ridgefield BBQ chips were almost gone. Yeah, sounds stupid, but those chips had a cult following with our night owls, truckers, late shift nurses, the weirdos. I sighed, grabbed the crusty padlock key and muttered, "Daryl, you cheap bastard. One day you'll give us a real storage room." Snatched the heavy mag light from its hook, thing doubled better as a club than a flashlight, and headed for the stairs. Halfway down, I heard it, a clang, sharp, metallic, something small hitting the floor and rolling. Sounded like a socket or washer, maybe. It came from deep in the back past the shelving. My stomach nodded, but I told myself it was just a rat. A big one, maybe kicked a can over. I took another step. The maglite beam danced across boxes and pipes. Then I heard footsteps, not scratching, not shuffling. Footsteps, heavy, slow, measured, human, coming closer. I froze mid-step, didn't breathe. My grip tightened around the maglite. The steps stopped just beyond the far row of shelves. I couldn't see anything, but I felt it, like when someone stands behind you too long in line, that awful instinct. My breath fogged in front of me. It was colder than usual. A damp, sudden cold like a cellar that hadn't been opened in years. I stepped backward. Slowly. Quietly. One step. Another. I reached the base of the stairs, turned to run. And I swear, to God, something shifted at the edge of my vision. I didn't wait. Took the stairs two at a time, legs burning, chest tight, slammed the door and twisted the lock with shaking hands. Dropped the flashlight on the tile. It clattered and rolled toward the candy rack. I collapsed behind the counter, heart thudding like a drum solo in my chest. That's when I remembered the monitor, flipped the screen to the basement cam. He was there, standing motionless at the bottom of the stairs, staring up, right into the lens, not moving, not talking, just watching. He didn't chase me, didn't make a sound, just stood there, clean clothes, late 30s maybe, short brown hair, not dirty or wild-eyed like some of the meth heads who wandered in from the woods sometimes. But his eyes, they were wide and hollow, and he was smiling. Clean shirt, jeans with barely a wrinkle, maybe late 30s, short-cropped brown hair. He didn't look wild or strung out like the tweakers who sometimes wandered in off the backwoods. Hell, he could have been your neighbor. But it was his eyes, wide, empty, and that smile. Too calm, too steady, like something that had never once needed to blink. I snatched the phone from the wall, didn't even say hello. There's someone in the basement. Dead silence on the other end. Then Daryl. What guy? Some guy, he's just standing there staring right at the damn camera. He didn't come through the store, Daryl, he's down there, in the basement. A pause. Too long. Then Daryl's voice again, low and tight, trying to sound like he wasn't rattled. Okay. Lock the front door, don't go back down, I'm on my way. You want me to call the cops? Not yet, just wait. That didn't sit right at all. But I did what he asked. Dead-bolted the front door and kept myself planted behind the register, eyes glued to the little black and white monitor. The A man didn't move. For a long 3 minutes he just stared, unmoving. Smile stretched wide across his face like it had been carved in place. Then, like something occurred to him, he turned slowly and walked out of frame. Gone. Daryl rolled up 12. Minutes later in his rust-rattling 91 Bronco. He had his granddad's old shotgun slung in one hand, face pale in the headlights. I let him in. He didn't waste breath on questions, just made a beeline for the basement. You're not going down there alone, I said. He stopped, looked at me. Eyes flicked toward the stairwell, then back to me. All right, he said. Stay close. We moved slow, boots echoing on concrete steps. His flashlight beam sliced through the dark. Dust floated like ash in the cold air. Nothing moved. No sound save for the groan of the old metal shelves as we passed. Nobody was there. Maybe it was just a glitch, Daryl offered, too casual. Don't insult me, I snapped. You saw my face when I called you. I was white as a sheet. He didn't respond. After my shift, I couldn't sleep. Kept every light in my trailer on. Sat up with a baseball bat by my side, replaying the whole thing over and over. That guy had been real. The camera didn't glitch. You can't fake that kind of look. Next night, I clocked in early. Needed to know I wasn't losing it. Pulled up the footage from the night before. Between 11:09 and 11:14, the basement cam just fuzzed. 5 full minutes of static, then it came back. Empty frame. The guy was gone. That wasn't a glitch, that was someone messing with the feed. A week passed, no sightings. I was just starting to feel sane again when Lexi, our weekend girl, came in looking like she'd seen a ghost. You left the basement. Door open, she said. What? No, I didn't. It was wide open when I came in, light was on. 2 days later, I started my shift and found a note taped to the inside of the counter. Just one line. You came close. My stomach flipped. Daryl rewound the footage. Between 3:02 and 3:05 a.m., the front camera cut out. Just blank. When it came back, the lens had been tilted up, aimed at the ceiling. When it dropped back down, there was the note. Just sitting there. I started carrying a pocket knife. 3 weeks later, Lexi found scratches on the inside of the basement door, deep ragged grooves like fingernails. Dragged down. That was when Daryl finally called the cops. Sheriff Renier came out. Polite guy, mid-50s, more gut than gun. He squinted at the marks, shrugged, and said, "Probably just some bored kids, you know how they get." Daryl let it go. I didn't. Later that week, I asked him, "Why didn't you want me to call the police that first night?" He didn't look at me, just rubbed his jaw and said, "I thought maybe it was someone I knew. Someone from back when my uncle ran the place. Didn't feel right, not at all." That night I tracked down Marlene, a retired cashier who'd worked there in the early 2000s. She met me at the diner, ordered black coffee, and said real quiet, "You heard about the missing man?" I nodded. "Last seen here. Bought a pack of Marlboros and some chips. Footage showed him going down into the basement with the owner, Daryl's uncle. Never came back up." "What happened to the uncle?" I asked. "Dropped dead of a heart attack 10 years ago. No one ever found that guy." I quit that week. Packed my stuff, didn't even bother leaving a note. Got the hell out of Hollow Creek. Been gone ever since. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see that smile. Those empty eyes. And I wonder if something's still down there, in the cold, dark belly of that basement. Not living, not dead. Just waiting. Watching and smiling. I used to laugh at people who rehearsed worst-case scenarios in their heads, the ones who carried pepper spray on their keychains or watched self-defense YouTube videos in bed. I thought they were just paranoid. My philosophy was simple. Don't. Invite trouble, and it won't come looking for you. I don't think that way anymore. It was March of last year. I'd just spent spring break at my aunt and uncle's place in Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania, a town so quaint it felt like time had stalled around 1983. Main Street had a mom-and-pop ice cream shop, a post office where a woman named Ruth still used rubber stamps, and a movie theater whose marquee stubbornly clung to the letters Shrek 2. No one seemed to mind. My cousin Maddie was getting married in June, and this was the only real time I'd get with her before wedding season. Swallowed her whole. We had a blast that week. Watched old rom-coms, hit every dusty antique shop within a 20-mile radius, and hiked the ridge trails behind the house until our legs burned. But come Saturday morning, it was time to head back. I was in the middle of my sophomore year at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama, and I hate goodbyes, so I snuck out early, hoping to dodge the emotions. Just a warm hug from my aunt, a sleepy wave from Maddie, and a paper towel-wrapped bundle of banana bread. My plan was basic. Grab coffee in Harrisburg, crash for a nap at my buddy Ryan's place in Winston-Salem, and drive the rest in one long, brain-numbing push. Because I was 20 and thought I was bulletproof, I decided to bring my dog Milo for company. 95 pounds of shaggy golden retriever poodle mix with a heart as soft as his curls. He once whimpered at a wind-up toy, but he was my boy. Always made the road feel a little less empty. By the time I hit Southern Virginia, the clock had drifted past 1 a.m. I'd been driving nearly 11 hours, stopping once outside Roanoke, to gas up and let Milo stretch his legs. Now I was on a dead stretch of Route 29. No exits, no lights, nothing but trees pressing in on either side like a forest trying to swallow the road. Even the air felt heavier, like I'd crossed into somewhere forgotten. That's when the gas light came on. "Damn it," I muttered, glancing at Milo through the rearview mirror. He was sprawled out in the back like a king, legs in the air, completely unconcerned. "All right, bud," I said aloud, more for my own nerves than his. "Next exit it is." 5 minutes later, Salvation appeared in the form of a green highway sign. Idle Creek, 1 mile. Never heard of it. Didn't care. I took the exit. The ramp dropped into a narrow, nameless road surrounded by trees so thick they leaned over the asphalt like they were eavesdropping. Another minute passed and I spotted a gas station tucked just off the roadside. It looked like a time capsule from the 70s. Two old pumps beneath a cracked canopy, a dark little convenience store lurking behind them, and a glitchy LED sign buzzing with half-lit words, gas, diesel, ice. The place felt off, like it had been abandoned and forgotten, but something inside hadn't quite gotten the memo. There were no other cars, no music, no traffic hum, not even the buzz of insects. Just my headlights slicing through the dark and one jittery eye, fluorescent bulb stuttering above pump 2. The place felt carved out of time. Still, the pumps were on, lit up, working. So I pulled in, cut the engine. Milo perked up instantly in the back seat, ears twitching. He stared out the window, alert in a way that made my skin prickle. Just gas, bud. Relax. I climbed out and swiped my card at the pump. As the gas started flowing, I looked around, letting my eyes adjust to the gloom. That's when I saw it. A second building, maybe 50 feet behind the station. Not connected to the store. Just there. A squat, windowless shack with rust streaks down its sides and a crooked metal roof. One naked bulb burned over its door. It shouldn't have meant anything. But it hit me wrong. Like someone had been waiting with the light on. Milo growled. Not the playful kind either. A low guttural sound vibrating through the car door. I froze. Hey. I crouched beside him, hand on his head. His fur was stiff. He wasn't blinking, just staring at the shack. We're tired, bud. That's all. Just tired. Click. The pump finished. I stood to return the nozzle, then heard it. Engines. More than one. I turned. Two black SUVs and a boxy white van rolled silently into the lot from a road behind the station I hadn't noticed. No headlights. No music. Just the soft, hungry growl of engines easing in slow like they'd done this before. My fingers locked around the gas handle. I didn't move. They parked in a clean semicircle near the shack. Doors opened. 10, maybe more. Men stepped out. Not a word between them. They stretched, looked around. A couple chuckled, quiet and casual. But it didn't feel casual. Not with the way they scanned the place like it was routine, like it belonged to them. Some wore heavy coats, too heavy for the weather. One guy had a walkie clipped to his belt and a bulge under his jacket that looked an awful lot like a gun. Milo let out another growl. This one was sharper, angrier, and this time, they noticed. Several heads turned. One of the men looked right at me and smiled. Slow, wide, the kind of smile that makes your stomach drop. Like he knew something I didn't. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Adrenaline hit me like ice water. I slammed the nozzle. Back in. Lunged into the driver's seat, locked the doors. Heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the engine start. We're leaving, I whispered. We're out, Then they started moving. Not toward me, not running. Just slipping, one by one, around the back of the shack, vanishing behind it. No flashlights, no talking, just shapes disappearing into shadow, all except the smiling man. He stayed put, watching me. I fumbled for my phone. 3%. No bars? Of course. Milo was whining now, pacing the back seat. I slammed the car into reverse, tires crunching over gravel, peeled out, hard in my throat, and didn't stop driving for another 40 miles. Until I saw the glow of a 24-hour diner off the highway. I pulled in like I was crashing through the gates of heaven. Inside, it was warm, too bright. I was shaking so hard I couldn't hold the cup of coffee the waitress brought me. She was older, with soft eyes and a floral apron. Asked if I was okay. Just tired. I lied. She nodded like she didn't believe me, but wouldn't ask again. Ended up curled in that booth all night, Milo's big head heavy in my lap. Neither of us slept much. 3 weeks later, I was scrolling local news before class when a headline stopped me cold. Human remains discovered near Idle Creek. I clicked it. The photo was grainy, taken through dead branches, but I knew the place instantly. That shack, 5 bodies, all male, none identified. Shallow graves under the floor, The article said the gas station had been abandoned for years. I stared at the screen, stomach churning, cold sweat blooming across my back. I didn't tell my parents. What would I even say? That I almost stopped at a murder site, that my dog might have saved my life? But I bought a satellite phone. I learned how to use pepper spray, and I never, ever stop for gas in the middle of nowhere now. Even now, months later, whenever I see a cluster of black SUVs or someone grinning a little too long, something inside me recoils. My pulse jumps. I think about that shack, the light, the silence, and I think about what might have happened if Milo hadn't growled, if I'd taken just a few more seconds, if I hadn't listened to the fear screaming in my chest. I don't overthink anymore, I prepare. It started with instinct, that deep animal sense crawling up your spine, whispering that something wasn't right, even when nothing seemed wrong. It was just past midnight when Emma and her boyfriend Ryan left Blue Peak Amusement Park, a tucked-away spot up in northern Georgia that felt like a retro throwback, with peeling paint on the rides and a janky log flume that still managed to thrill. They'd spent the day laughing, half sunburned, taking selfies in front of a rusty Ferris wheel and stuffing their faces with greasy churros. It had been Ryan's birthday gift to her. 2-day passes, hotel room, everything. For the first time in months, Emma had felt like herself again. The drive home should have been simple. They only lived a couple hours northeast near Hartwell, but a pileup on I-77 had the GPS reroute them through what it called a faster alternative. Neither of them blinked. Emma loved the back roads, said they reminded her of childhood drives with her dad. And Ryan, born and raised in the mountains near Dahlonega, he could navigate hairpin curves in his sleep. It even felt romantic at first. Quiet. Peaceful. Like they were the only ones in the world. But then the road started to change. What was once a smooth 2-lane highway narrowed into cracked asphalt. Fewer signs. No shoulder. The trees pressed in closer, black pine trunks stretching like spines into the dark. The GPS didn't bother naming the road anymore. Just a thin blue line. Emma glanced at her phone. 12:47 a.m., no bars. The screen felt like ice in her hand. Ryan's 2010 Nissan 370Z purred along, but Emma knew its quirks by now. It was sleek, fast, but getting old. And the worst part? The busted fuel gauge. He had to rely on the trip meter. That 326, he muttered, tapping the dash like that would help. Emma looked over. What? I usually fill up before 120, we're pushing it. There wasn't a station near the park, she said, her voice a touch sharper now. I know, I just forgot. He squinted into the dark ahead. We need to find one, soon. Emma's phone flickered back to life long enough to pull up a low-res map. There's one about 5 minutes from here, Creek-eyed Phillip. Ryan exhaled. Perfect. He relaxed his grip on the wheel just a little. That's when Emma's stomach knotted. As they turned off onto a narrow lane, something deep in her gut screamed. The road dipped into a steep decline, flanked by woods, so thick it felt like driving into a cave. The headlights barely cut through the black. At the bottom of the hill, a sickly light flickered. A gas station, if you could even call it that. Just one sagging building, 2 rusting pumps, and a broken canopy light that buzzed like a dying fly. The sign overhead had half its bulbs dead. It just read, Creek-eyed. Ryan rolled in slowly, tires crunching gravel. Emma's hand gripped the door. I don't like this place. He gave her a tired smile. It's just old, babe. No, it's not that. It feels... She paused, her voice going quieter. Wrong. He reached over, squeezed her hand. 2 minutes, I won't even go inside. The moment he stepped out, her heart started pounding. She stared at the warped sign. No movement inside the building. No clerk, no music, no other cars. She locked the doors. The pump handle made a harsh clink as Ryan lifted it, like grinding teeth. Emma looked back down the road, dread curling in her gut. It wasn't a shortcut. It was a dead end. The GPS had marked the road ending just past the gas station. No outlet, no loop. Just a single blunt edge of asphalt swallowed by trees. They'd have to turn around and go back the way they came. Emma leaned forward, squinting at the map again, but then a flicker in the rear view caught her eye. A white SUV. It crawled into view from the road they'd just taken. Silent. Slow. Emma blinked. Her pulse skipped. Ryan. He looked up from the dash. What? She motioned toward the mirror. That car. Behind us. Ryan twisted in his seat. The SUV had stopped maybe 50 feet back, idling in the middle of the road. Not pulling, and not moving, just sitting there. Weird, Ryan muttered, his voice tight now. Emma kept her eyes on it. The driver's side window was rolled down. She could just make out a silhouette. A man, maybe late 30s or 40s, his face barely visible, lit by the ember of a cigarette. But he wasn't moving, just watching. Emma cracked her window. The outside air was thick, humid, laced with the chemical tang of gasoline and old asphalt. Overhead, the station's lights buzzed and flickered, one of them sparking like it was shorting out. Ryan shifted in place. Maybe he's waiting for us to leave? Then the SUV reversed, slowly. Tires crunching, gravel, then it pulled forward again. A few feet closer this time. Emma's throat tightened. Ryan. He didn't speak, just dropped the nozzle. The metal clanged against the pump as he sprinted to the driver's side. Get ready to go. What? Ryan. Now, Emma! He jumped in, started the car with a sharp turn of the key. The engine flared to life, headlights cutting across the dark lot. But as Ryan moved to pull out, the SUV suddenly shot forward and veered across the exit, blocking them in. Emma screamed, clutching the door. Shit! Hang on! Ryan shouted, throwing the car into reverse. The tires screeched as they jerked backward, fishtailing slightly on the loose gravel. He spun the wheel hard, whipping the car back onto the narrow road they'd come from. The SUV followed. Fast. Its high beams blazed, flooding the Nissan's interior with searing white light. Emma turned in her seat, saw the man's face clearly now. Expressionless, focused. No panic, no confusion, just intent. Why the hell is he doing this? She cried. Ryan didn't answer, his jaw clenched tight, eyes locked forward. Come on, come on. There's got to be a way out. There, Emma shouted, pointing out the passenger window. A narrow gravel road shot off to the left, almost hidden by underbrush and overgrown pine limbs. Ryan didn't hesitate. He yanked the wheel and slammed the gas. The car jerked violently as they veered onto the trail, gravel and dirt spitting out behind them. The SUV skidded past the turn, its tires howling as it slammed to a stop in the main road. Emma twisted, around. He's stopping. He missed the turn. Ryan didn't slow. The gravel road was rough, jagged rocks, ditches, overhanging limbs. The Nissan bucked and scraped with every bump. Then, headlights. Not from behind. In front, a dark pickup truck was parked sideways across the path, blocking it completely. Engine off. Headlights cold, like it had been waiting. Ryan slammed the brakes. The car fishtailed, stopped just short of the bumper. Emma's stomach dropped. No. Ryan, no. He threw it into reverse again, spinning the car back toward the road, only to see the white SUV now parked neatly behind them, boxing them in. We're trapped. Her voice broke. Ryan grabbed his phone. No service. Just a spinning circle. What do we do? Emma whispered. A door creaked open. From the truck, a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a grease-stained flannel shirt. In his right hand he held a crowbar. He didn't run. He walked. Slowly. Steady. The SUV's driver exited too. Same build. Same gait. Same crowbar. No words. Just footsteps crunching leaves. Ryan, drive, Emma screamed. He didn't hesitate. The car surged forward, not toward the road, but off it, crashing through brush and brittle branches. Emma shrieked, ducking as a branch snapped against the windshield. The Nissan bucked and jolted over roots and stumps, headlights bouncing wildly. Then, another path. Faint, but real. Ryan took it. They barreled forward for what felt like an eternity, neither of them speaking, just breathing hard, hands clenched. After 5 punishing minutes, the woods opened into a clearing. An old maintenance shed stood crooked under a collapsed tin roof. An ancient vending machine stood outside, half lit, humming weakly. Ryan killed the engine. Silence. Emma's breaths came fast, shallow. Did we lose them? Ryan checked the rear view. Nothing. Just darkness. I think so, he whispered. They sat there, adrenaline crashing all at once, hands shaking, hearts pounding like war drums. When Emma's phone finally buzzed with a weak signal, she called 911. It took the sheriff's department 45 minutes to arrive. The deputy was a stocky man in his 50s, tan uniform stained at the sleeves. He listened quietly, then nodded, face like stone. You were on Idle Creek Road. Emma looked up. Yeah, that's what the map said. He sighed, removing his hat. Locals avoid that stretch. It's got a bad rep. Drug runs, ambushes, robberies. Few folks have gone missing there. We've never caught anyone. They're careful. Ryan stared out the window, silent. Emma blinked. We just wanted gas. The deputy didn't smile, just shook his head. Some stations aren't abandoned. They're bait. Ryan sold the Nissan 2 weeks later. Couldn't look at it without remembering that night. Emma never drove a back road after dark again. Some instincts don't lie. They scream for a reason.